Hello everyone, I'm Phil Diamond, the spokesperson at the U.S. Embassy in Uganda. I'm here today at the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Joining me is the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Authority, Mr. Sam Mwandha. Welcome very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for hosting us here today at Uganda Wildlife Authority. We're going to talk some today about biodiversity, U.S. government support to biodiversity, as well as what the Uganda Wildlife Authority is doing and the long-standing partnership that the United States has with the government of Uganda in terms of biodiversity. We're also going to talk about COVID-19, the current pandemic, and the work that the Uganda Wildlife Authority is doing in response to that and the outlook going forward. So with that, I'll kick it off with the first question. I'd like to ask, what are the biggest threats to biodiversity conservation in Uganda today? How is the Uganda Wildlife Authority responding to those threats? And why does the protection of wildlife, wildlands, and natural resources matter?
Thank you, Phil, and thank you definitely to USAID and the US Embassy for the support we have received over the years. It has made a big difference to Uganda Wildlife Authority, and some of the success that we can talk about actually because of the support that you have given us. You're asking what the biggest threats are, and there are many, but I want to just mention a few. We have the issue of human-wildlife conflict. We've done a good job in increasing the number of wildlife in our protected areas, and because the numbers have gone up, the wildlife goes out of these parks very often and causes a challenge with the communities destroying crops and sometimes causing injury to wildlife, to livestock and to humans, and that is a challenge. The other is the fact that we continue having poaching as a problem for meat, for their use, but also for sale. And to a less extent, sometimes they poach for ivory. And then our populations that are neighboring the protected areas are growing. And as they grow, they need to feed themselves, they need more land for agriculture, and there is a challenge of encroachment that comes with it. We also, because of climate change, are seeing invasive species come into our parks and reduce the area available for the wildlife. And there is a small bit that happens especially for the local politics, where politicians use the protected areas as a pawn in trying to get votes, because they say, vote me, I'll degazette the park. And that creates a big problem for us managing them. What we have done is we have increased resources for law enforcement. We have increased our ability to speak and tell people what conservation is about and how they can benefit from it, and therefore urge them to work with us to protect the wildlife. We have also worked to improve the livelihoods of the communities through the revenue sharing programs that are part of the law that set up the Uganda Wildlife Authority, but also in providing direct resources to communities so that they can develop their own projects. We are also working on eradicating the invasive species in the parks where they are found, and also providing water sources within the park so that, especially where wildlife is going out to look for water, we prevent that because they have water where they are. So those are some of the things that we are working on that are helping to address these challenges. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The U.S. government is launching 3 new biodiversity activities that will support community conservation, combat wildlife trafficking, and innovative conservation financing. How do you see these efforts supporting or complementing the work of the Uganda Wildlife Authority and long-term conservation outcomes in Uganda? And how will these efforts make a difference for the average Ugandan, particularly given the current pandemic of COVID-19?
Thank you again, and for the support that the US government is providing, we definitely appreciate. And in terms of what it will do, this support is going to complement our very activities that I mentioned earlier. The issue of supporting community livelihoods, especially I know the biodiversity for resilience will be supporting some of these specific activities in helping the communities develop their own enterprises, helping them to address human-wildlife conflict. And as they do that, they will be complementing what we are already doing. At the same time, in terms of addressing illegal trafficking and illegal wildlife trade, we will be sharing information between different agencies that we work with to ensure that we are able to engage and get these illegal traders and put them behind the bars and protect the wildlife that is our resource. At the same time, there is also opportunity to further enhance our law enforcement. Incidentally, over the last 1 year, we've gotten support from the US government, training our staff to do better work in terms of supporting them to build their capacity to be leaders. And if you're a good leader, you will be able to manage the team you have and do much more than if you are not a good one. So those are some of the things that we will be looking at. In the terms of human wildlife mitigation, I know that this will be the biodiversity for resilience will be a follow-on on an activity that was done by USAID before that was looking at livelihoods that at the same time try and address human-wildlife conflict. So that, for example, if you're growing chili, you can sell the chili, but at the same time it is helping you reduce the conflict that would come. So we are looking forward to getting that support. And when we do, we look at the communities benefiting and therefore improving their livelihoods. We are looking at less threats from zoonotic diseases, because if we reduce the illegal wildlife trafficking, then we reduce the possibility of these diseases crossing from wildlife to humans. We also believing that in USAID working with the communities and us, we will provide additional tourism products that will draw more tourists into Uganda, and that would also help us do better in a lot of other ways. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is your vision for innovative financing for conservation and partnership with the private sector?
Let me go to the background. What happens is that Uganda Wildlife Authority is a government agency. And as government, there are so many things that we have to look at. There is health, there is education, there is defense, there is agriculture, and so many things. So government rarely has all the resources to do everything that needs to be done. And sometimes conservation is sometimes left on the back burner because there are more challenging issues that need to be addressed. So in engaging the private sector, you are looking at a sector that is looking to actually making a profit. And when you engage them, they swiftly catch on. As long as there is a benefit for them, they will work on it and they will be able to support you in conservation. So innovative financing for conservation should, in a way, get the community, the private sector and communities directly involved in conservation, getting a benefit out of it. In the moment that benefit is there, the sky is the limit, because their ability to innovate, their ability to come up with new ideas is great. And sometimes we government officials are focused on our desks and sometimes we forget about innovation. So we are looking forward to engaging the private sector and sharing with them great ways in which we can further conserve our resources. And sometimes the private sector wants to work and do something, but they do not have the resources to invest. And so this funding should help them to invest better, and we should get a better result. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So we know that tourism brought over $1.45 billion to the Ugandan economy in 2018, yes. Big source of revenue, and that approximately 80% of the tourism sector is nature-based. What impact has the current global pandemic of COVID-19 had on the tourism sector?
The impact is great, and I'll just focus on Uganda. You probably are aware that the last 2.5 months, hotels have been closed. Tour operators are not working. Uganda Wildlife Authority is operational in terms of addressing poaching and encroachment and human-wildlife conflict, but we are not receiving any guests. For us, as an authority, we are receiving on average $2 million US, which is about 7 billion Uganda shillings a month. That income is not there at all. So it means, therefore, that the resources we have to be utilized only on the critical activities. Some of the things that are essential but not critical, we can't do them anymore. And so that is the kind of impact you have. The lodge, hotels, restaurants, travel agencies, tour operators, many of them have laid off staff or have said, okay, you still have a job, but you go home, I don't have money to pay you, take a leave without pay. And that affects and impacts communities and the whole chain of things, because these are the same people who are buying food, who are buying clothing, who are taking children to school, and all those services are impacted. So it's not just about tourism, it's about the whole chain of services that are provided by the different players in the economy that are affected. And for us as an institution, that is a big challenge because our resources are reduced, but we have a literal reserve that we will continue utilizing to ensure that we are operational for as long as possible. Mm-hmm. Yes, and in terms of what we have done as an institution about the pandemic is we looked at the resources we had. They are limited, but we have developed a contingency plan that prioritizes the things we do. And our priorities are basically two. We need to protect the wildlife. We need to address human-wildlife conflict. So that is what we are focusing on now. Meanwhile, we have developed a small team here that is handling the issues of the pandemic, a task force that advises me and tells me the best things to do. We're already working on a possible opening up of our parks soon, and we have developed standard operating procedures that will ensure that when our visitors come, they are safe, they don't get infected, and we are protecting our staff as well. Yeah.
Great. I think we just have one last question. Aside from the positive conservation and economic impacts, we were talking about the new biodiversity programs earlier. How can these new biodiversity activities help to prevent zoonotic disease transfer?
Thank you. That is a very important question, given that sometimes the zoonotic diseases that end up in humans have come from wildlife because of the way we've handled them. And principally, if you're addressing the illegal wildlife trade, you reduce the wrong handling of the wildlife by individuals who are just looking for money, who do not have the professionalism on how to handle. And therefore, the linkage between the wildlife diseases to humans, in that case, is broken. And so you are protecting the whole population against the zoonotic diseases. And so we hope that as we implement this project, we will be able to save, break the chain that leads to the transfer of diseases from animals, from wildlife to humans. And for us, that is extremely important. And probably just to add on one last thing is that as Uganda Wildlife Authority, we are still operational. Our parks at the moment are closed, but we are maintaining them. The moment, and very soon we open them, we invite everybody to come and visit, because the wildlife is there, we've protected it, and thank you, US government, for the support you give us. But also, the landscape still remains beautiful. So we just want to encourage everybody to feel free the moment we reopen to come and visit. Thank you.
And let me follow up with that on a personal note to say that I've visited almost every national park in the country.
Right.
Only one remains. And this country is absolutely gorgeous. The wildlife is spectacular.
Thank you.
And congratulate you and your team for doing such a great job of running the parks.
Thank you.
I've been so impressed.
Thank you.
So is there anything else you'd like to comment on today before we wrap up?
Just to encourage everybody to stay safe. Wherever you are, there are guidelines that your government has given you. Follow them so that you do not infect yourself, but also infect others. Because we will overcome this. It's temporary, we'll overcome it. And Uganda is ready and willing to welcome those coming from outside. And if you are in Uganda, please visit our protected areas. The wildlife is there, and we are ready and willing to welcome you. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time today.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Too.